Hello, everybody, and welcome to Seent Movies and Television with Maddie and Stefan. I'm Stefan, and this here boy over here,
It's Maddie.
Maddie and I are avid movie fans. We can never shut up about it in our group chats and our audio calls or whatever the kids are doing these days. And now we're here with Seent, which is a reference to in our group chat anytime we watch a movie and it's completed, we always say Seent. And for the record, there is another podcast called We Seent It, but I think it's just enough of a difference, Seent Movies and Television with Maddie and Stefan, to roll with it. Anyway.
We're going to do it anyway.
So to start, we're going to just kind of give our general feelings and like a general non-spoiler review of the film. This is Maddie's like nearest and dearest franchise. So I'm going to go ahead and let you start non-spoiler, and then once we get out of that little bit of the non-spoiler, we're going to have a full-on dig-in spoiler review up until the end of this episode. So strap in. Welcome to the inaugural episode of our new series. And without further ado, Maddie, how the hell did you feel about Prey?
Well, I mean, let's start off by saying I've wanted this movie for years. I remember I've read a lot of the Predator comics and novels and stuff like that. And, you know, after whatever year the Predator came out, I was just like, oh my God, like there's one thing in the comments people say, let the franchise die. We have the best of the best, right? Like Predator 1, that's all we need. I disagree because I think there are good stories to tell. I think you just need talented filmmakers and writers to tell these stories.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad the franchise isn't dead. And, you know, everyone was on the fence about, oh, Disney owns the rights now. They have Alien, they have Predator, they have all this stuff. They're going to, you know, sugarcoat it. And, you know, it's whatever, you know, right. Naru's a Disney princess now, blah, 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 whatever. I've been looking for, I've always wanted a back in time Predator film. Like,
yes,
whatever that would entail, totally. Wild West, samurai. Oh, don't tease me. I need a samurai one. But, you know, this is a story like this. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time watching it. I will say that I watched it in the Comanche dub first. And like any dub film, ballsy. It is dubbed. So It kind of annoyed me a little bit. And I did not have a great experience my first time through. But quickly after that first time through, I rewatched it a second time. Because I'm a huge fan, and I enjoyed it a lot more. I thought like I don't know what you'd call it, English/Comanche/French.
Comanche English.
Yeah, I thought that worked fine, and I don't think it takes anything away. I know some comments were like, "Oh, why isn't this all in Comanche?" And it's like, well, I mean, you got to realize that. I mean, you got to realize that not everybody's going to sit down and watch a subtitled movie, and you don't want to alienate an audience trying to, for lack of a better term, maybe spark some new life into a franchise. After the last movie was pretty much dead, no one really cared. I mean, people did like that movie, and I don't know why. There were parts I liked of it. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's everything I've wanted from, a Predator movie that takes place during a different time period and stuff. I got to see things I'd never seen before. I got to... You know, as far as I know, the Comanche stuff was like spot on for the most part. They did have like people on set. I love when there's an animal involved. It's always fun to watch that. I know I've heard it's a pain to film.
Yeah.
And I just read an article where apparently that dog was never trained, so it was a hot mess on set. But I thought it did a really great job, not being trained for film or whatever. But I loved it. I had a great time. I think it deserves the 91 or what % it is on Rotten Tomatoes, or I don't even know what it's at right now, but I think it deserves that fresh rating. And I think people have been waiting a long time for this, and I'm glad I'm alive to see this kind of movie be made right now.
Hell yeah. I mean, I expected it to be good just from the premise alone, like Native American warriors fighting a predator, boom, like basically writes itself. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I love that there was a female lead, Naru. She's an amazing character, very endearing, super tough. I love also that there was a balance between the male characters and her in the thing. And, they're obviously expected to be the greater warriors in this type of civilization. But, her drive to be a hunter and a warrior in her own right and be recognized for it was really cool. And I think very cool hero for young girls to look up to in this type of movie. I love that idea that it's not. I mean, us growing up, we had our heroes and our figures from movies that we idolized and wanted to be. But there's the moment, not to spoil anything just yet, but there's a moment where she looks at a little girl after everything's all said and done, and she's kind of looking at the audience like, ladies, you can be a bold hunter and warrior too, which I think a lot of young women, older women, I think women in general nowadays are getting their due in that regard. And I love movies like this. So I was blown away. I really enjoyed the writing quite a bit. I thought was well handled. There was some good sensibility to the writing, not too many like cheeseball lines and stuff like that. Not hardly any. I really don't have too many complaints about what I saw, and was really blown away. I've seen it 3 times now. I think Maddie also the same, and I could watch it again, honestly. So with that being said, let's go ahead and were there any gripes that you had with the film at all? Like, were there any things that you're just kind of like, I don't know, that could have been better, or let's start there.
Yeah. So like, I know it's a made-for-TV movie, right? Like, I do think the quality is way better in Dan Trachtenberg's like visual sense and like the everything that he brings to that. Because I mean, 10 Cloverfield Lane looked beautiful. Like, despite how you feel about that movie, I thought it was great. I thought it did everything really well. But I think he has a great sensibility as a director. It's honestly surprising this is only a second movie to me.
True that.
Like,
great directing.
I mean, it's great that he's gone from like, hey, I'm gonna ride the coattails of J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves after Cloverfield and do the sequel, which is cool. I think I don't know what the relationship is. It seemed like good buds, but I think he's in a good group of guys who are really creative and are probably about our age and grew up with like a lot of movies. So it was just surprising. I love that he got to do a new Predator movie. I think we do need. I don't think we need older guys who like worked on the previous Predator to come in and write these movies. I think we need people who have fresh ideas or just different takes on stuff. So I think some of the CG is pretty weak with the animal stuff, but I understand you can't have a real rattlesnake bite a guy in a Predator costume. You can't do it, or try to bite him.
McTiernan would have done it.
yeah,
for sure.
McTiernan, I'm sure any other director would have done it. Like, there's the coyote scene or the wolf scene that's also like, I think looks pretty good. Bears are just hard to do. I mean, I love the Revenant, but that bear, I know that bear CG, and it's probably like the best looking bear CG ever.
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty CG heavy movie, which is fine. So that would probably be a big gripe of mine. But it wasn't enough that I couldn't look past it, because I love the story. Naru, her brother, I thought that relationship was great. I didn't like CG blood always kind of bugs me, but I feel like at this point it's just like a standard you have to do. Like I mean, you can't cut a bear open and then have it bleed all over your main character practically. It's just like it's really hard to do. So the thing that bugged me the most.
Okay, let's hit me with it.
I don't like the Predator unmasked. I don't like his design. I don't like the protruding forehead.
This is coming from an expert, folks.
It's not what I wanted when he unmasked. I love the look of him when he's like running around with his like mask on. Those are my like biggest complaints with the movie. I don't really have anything else. I just wish his face looked a little different or looked more classic-y, but like a different take. I just feel like they departed so much from it, and coming from like a really bad Predator film, and like some people hate Predators. I think it's a pretty solid sequel for the time. I feel like it was too much of a departure, like, to do that, but I don't really. I mean, I'd like to hear more, like Dan Trachtenberg talk about it a little more, why he made the choices with the face, and I haven't really gotten a good look at it. Because they don't show it a lot. Like, honestly, like we don't get that big face down scene like in Predator 1 or Predator 2.
Right. I think I agree with you. I think it's maybe a little bit of a weak kind of facial structure, and it was heavily CG, so there probably wasn't a whole lot of prosthetic over the actor. They probably just led with the CG, so something about it felt a little intangible when his face was finally revealed. For myself, I really don't have a whole lot of complaints. I kind of let a lot of the CG slide just because, the low budget and everything like that, and it's this guy's second movie, and the good far outweighed any of the bad necessarily. But I agree with a lot of your comments, and one thing I did like was the jaw of it was like longer, like the mandibles were a little bit longer, a little bit more flexible, it seemed like. I kind of dug that when when you do first see it, the camouflage go off and it kind of roars. With the mask on, it was like, oh, like this is awesome. But then, when the mask comes off, I didn't mind it so much. I wish we did get to see more of its eyes and more of the face. But it seems like even they kind of maybe saw that was like a weaker aspect of it, and they didn't show it a whole lot.
Yeah. I feel like, real quick, I feel like I can probably guarantee if they did make a practical full mask like that, it would probably look slightly better. And I think they probably wanted. Too, I think he probably wanted more emotion that they probably didn't have the budget for. Sure. I just think of Predator 2 when he's like motherfucker, and it's like eyes are like It reminds me.
Oh wait,
of like
by the way, we're owned by Disney now. You can't swear. No, I'm just kidding. They own everybody.
I said this when the movie was coming out. Like when they showed the teaser, I was like, if it's better than the Predator, I'm gonna fucking love it. And it's gonna be great. So
cool. Before we move on, I was gonna ask you, like, what do you give it out of your your out of tens, we'll say here, and we're gonna do that rating just for the audience who haven't seen it yet, for our non-spoiler aspect, just so you can get an idea of really how we feel about it. After we do our rating, we're gonna dig a little bit deeper and we're gonna talk more spoilers, more story elements, that kind of thing. So if you've seen it, please stick with us. If not, I'd highly recommend you turn this off and go watch Prey like 4 times. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and just start. I give it like a 9 out of 10. I think there's minor gripes, but I think it's just filmmaking at its finest at a low budget with an underdog director with a great underdog story, and it delivers on all things that you'd want from a Predator. I think, like gore, action, and a good story, good characters. 9 out of 10 from me. How about yourself?
I'll probably do a 9 out of 10 too. I was thinking a 9.5, but I just want the Predator's face to look a little cooler. I mean, it's the only thing that kind of bugs me about the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe once a figure comes out, like I think, to me, the Predator, you just shouldn't CG his face. We have the puppetry work. I just think it looked to me a little goofy when it could have looked really cool, even with like whatever design they like that design. Which, because there is like a side profile shot that looks sick when, like, not spoilers, but there's a scene where Naru unmasks him very coolly, and she I love that like screaming scene. I was like, oh, he's gonna look so cool, and then you see it, and I'm like, not for Maddie, but that's fine. So I think everything else rocks.
That's a 9 out of 10 for us. For those of you who haven't seen it, thanks for sticking with us this far. But by all means, turn this off. Go watch Prey right now. It's such a good film. Highly recommended. So from here, we're going to jump in with some spoilery talk, and we're just going to kind of dig in a little bit more. So welcome. Overall, how do you feel about like the storytelling, the story elements, the characters, the deaths, the action sequences? Like now that we're in spoiler territory, let's say this, what moment stood out to you the best? What's like your favorite moment of the whole movie, you think? That's a tough one, huh?
I mean, I think I forget what the comic was, but I was reading one and the Predator fought a bear, and I was like, oh my god, this is sick in a comic. It's like a couple panels and it's over, right? It's like the Predator versus bear. It can't be that. I've always wanted to see that on the big screen, and Prey gave me that.
Yeah.
Because when they showed it in the trailer, I was like, so the thing is with Predators, they have a whole honor system, right? Like even if this is a feral Predator, he still lives by some kind of code. So when I saw the trailer and the bear, like, it looks like he just kills the bear as it's trying to attack her in the trailer, and it really bummed me out because I thought that he was just going to kill this bear and not even try to fight it. And I was like, well, that's not the point of a Predator. I was like, has Dan Trachtenberg missed the point of this race of aliens? Like, they don't kill people that aren't armed, or like, there's classic examples of all of this, and even from factor. They want to hunt stuff, and they like, I mean, I think it's like Vikings, right? Like they want to die in battle. Like this is probably their greatest honor. I'm sure somewhere in some comic or some novel that I've read that I just forgot because I've drank a lot. There's been some drugs in my life. I can't remember it all. I love that scene. I just think it looks so cool. I love that it's just like the
Hell yeah.
bear just pummels him for a bit, and you're like, oh shit, and then he just punches the shit out of it. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it would have been he wouldn't have been cloaked during it, but I get that that allows them
Just
to
the
spend a
reveal
little
and
more.
everything.
Well, it gives them a little more money to spend on the bear probably, and because they're just having to do this, I'm sure CGing something clear, but like making it have light effects is probably cheaper than you know figuring out how an actor can punch a fake object and make it look cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I get
That
why
I
they did it
love
that
the
way.
sucker punch. That was so great.
Yeah. Well,
Boom.
I love this. I love this Predator too because I feel like he's very much like, all right, fuck you. He's just like, ow,
Yeah.
that hurt. Like when he kills the wolf, it's just like when it bites him, he just throws it.
Bites him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, damn it, I
I
wasn't
love the
prepared.
details in particular throughout the whole film, like little things like that. Even there's a moment near one of the climactic fights when the brother, he's just been stabbed through his back, out through his chest, and you think he's dead once that's over, hit the ground. But there's one more little surprise moment where he takes the wolf skull that the predator had and jams it into his leg. I'm just like, the way that Dan Trachtenberg and the filmmaker or the crew or whoever is involved in the decisions in that way, the way that they approach that, there's so many little details, there's so much great symbolism around predator and prey, and how the pred itself is examining the food chain and the hierarchy of predators and stuff like that. And there's like, because on the surface you could take it at face value and be like, it's just a bunch of action, there's a warrior, there's a bunch of deaths, cool, love it. But and it's not a movie that you really do need to dig deeper, but there are minute details that are just so well handled and
Yeah.
so sensible. My favorite moment out of the whole, well, it's hard to say, and
I mean, I
it's a
have
hard
so many
question.
more. It's just,
Yeah, we'll get
yeah.
to it. I think the one that really stands out is the first time that he faces off against the native warriors and seeing them kind of getting taken down piece by piece. Those deaths were brutal, but then it's that first time you get the reveal. And when I was in film school, one of my film professors asked, is there a film language? And there most certainly is, in my opinion. And a good example of this is in the film when Naru is being forced to go back home by the other native warriors. She protests and she gives up a fight, and then so they fight like equals, but the one warrior, I forgot his name, the one warrior who is fighting with her, he goes at it and he punches her in the head or whatever. So in film language terms, in my opinion, the first guy to punch a woman in a movie is going to be the first one who gets killed by the pred. You can just kind of see that coming, and that's kind of how it played out. And it's these emotional motivations, like, because one thing that was really cool is they still established that they're a community, that even though they have infighting and stuff, they're still a greater good. They're trying to get her home safe, even though she's protesting, and she's pissing him off. And he clocks her one a couple times actually, and but he ends up being the first one to get hit by the predator, and then kind of goes from there, and then it elevates her character from there, and her prowess as a warrior and her awareness of the fight. So that was a really good favorite scene of mine.
I just want to go back to before we move on to the human kills. I love when the wolf bites him, and then when it goes back, like it's getting ready to do that final showdown before he kills it, and
Mm-hmm.
on the wolf's teeth instead of there's the predator blood, and it's very small, and I
Oh
noticed it
yeah.
like my
Oh
second
wow.
view, my
I didn't
third,
notice that.
and I love it. I don't. It's visually cool
Mm-hmm.
because I've only seen the predator bleed on itself or on humans, and I
Yeah.
just like that these like animals are like, well, I don't know what the fuck you are, but I'm gonna try to survive this. I
Yeah.
just thought it was cool. Like I
Kind of the
said, this is
same.
kind of the
Yeah.
movie I've really wanted, and I
Sure.
thought after I watched the Predator, I was like, they either have to go into the future, so
Right.
it's something different, or they have to go to the past, and
And another detail, kind of to add to what you were saying, is at the end after she's defeated the predator, the way the blood is on her face, and it's
yeah,
like that mix of like it's definitely predator blood, but then harkens to native war paint and stuff, and just
oh yeah,
again those
so
details were like Dan Trachtenberg, like hell yeah.
yeah.
But go on with what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the next, like, I love that first action scene where we do the reveal and the scream. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh my, like, when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, you did it, man. Like, that first scream, I was like, I was already in, but at that point, I was just like, you'd have to do a lot to fuck this up. Like,
Yeah.
and like I said, like there's very little. Like I don't like the design of the face, but I could watch him wear that mask
Yeah.
all fucking
Yeah,
movie
but the
and never
mask was
take it.
sick.
Yeah.
I was, I had a thought to myself when he's taking out all the French trappers and stuff. Like, to me, I was like, this is a beautiful creature. Like, he's fucking
Yeah.
these people up. I should be scared of this guy right now. But this race is just like so unique and beautiful, like a testament to Stan Winston back in the day in the original design, and how through Predators and even all the Predator films, how they've kind of evolved and changed a little bit. Even the NECA action figure line, and they've really pushed that to like more heights and pulled from comics and stuff like that to differentiate all the different. How do you pronounce the race? Do you remember? Can you?
It's Yautja.
Yautja? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Yautja.
There's also a
The
metal band called that. So
The fucking Yautja. But I had that thought to myself. I was like, this is like the same way you would look at a tiger or something, and these monumental. It was like nature from another planet facing against nature from ours in so many ways. And
yeah. Well, I love the way they set up the shot. Like as you see Naru and her brother. What's his name? It starts with a T.
Tabi.
Tabi, and
Yeah,
they're
we learned a little
talking.
Comanche.
Yeah, and so
Kutamia.
and then I love how it like pans over to like the guys with like he's got the scope and the guy's got the rifle, and then you got the guys on the horses making all this noise, and then it like cuts over to the one guy, and you just in the background you see one of the guys fall off, and I think he's like cut in half.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
and then the horses run by him, and you're like, oh, this is fucking like I don't know, like these little like the little details of just like how clever the predator can be and how much of a good hunter it
Yeah.
is awesome to me. I love that. I love the guy running through the forest like shouting like it's here in French, and you're like, oh my god, get ready, boys.
I love that the Pred had like a sense of his own prowess, and when he had his staff like cracked in half, he was like doing that Jedi shit where he was kind of twirling it and preparing himself for the next hit, and it was just like
Yeah,
he had such good attitude, for only getting less than half of the movie when we really see him outside of the camouflage.
yeah,
It was just he was even under the camouflage there was such attitude exuded by this character, like when he gets the snake tries to bite him and he gets it so quick, or the thing with the wolf. There was
yeah,
there's these the Yautja probably trained so hard from their childhood into their adulthood, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but if it's just a theory or whatever, if this is like a rite of passage kind of scenario for this race, and they send them to these planets to like prove themselves as warriors. And so I was wondering if maybe he was fairly young, maybe like the equivalent of our 20 somethings or something like that, testing his battle prowess. But just such good attitude and characterization of the predator himself, let alone everybody else in it. Such great supporting characters, and Naru was she's so great.
yeah.
How'd you feel about the Comanche cast and everything? The like the cultural stuff there, building their story.
I mean, I thought it was awesome. I mean, it's so weird that they're like, yeah, let's make this movie, and you have like all these Comanche,
Yeah,
First Nation people backing a fucking sci-fi horror movie to
totally.
be their first. Like, here's what we're gonna present to you with like a Comanche dub, and like the first time it's ever been done,
Hmm.
and also just more credit to Dan Trachtenberg for because I'm sure he had to go to bat for a lot of this. From
Right.
what I've read, it seemed like the studio was kind of all for it. They read the initial script, and I think what he said, I'm sure they said other stuff, but it's
Hmm.
still new. I'm sure 15, 20 years from now we'll hear the real story of Bray. But
Sure.
apparently all they wanted was more dog in it, and they loved the script. They wanted it to be rated R.
That's
They
funny.
weren't trying to
Yeah.
be like this is a Disney movie now.
Yeah.
It's
Dogs sell
20th
tickets,
century.
man.
It's 20th Century Studios now, or whatever
I
the
was
name of
really
the.
surprised by that, with all the Fox Disney merger or whatever. Like, I guess I kind of knew that in the back of my mind, but I'm kind of happy, we still got the fanfare, the 20th Century fanfare to open up films, and 20th Century Studios. That works,
Mhm.
man. That was really cool. And I think being a long time moviegoer and that, and like the Universal thing opening up a film, you kind of know you're getting a good film there. It's really setting the tone for that experience.
Yeah.
So that was a really good surprise for me, and
I love that they're not trying to shy away. And like when the title premieres, it says 20th Century Prey, and I think that
Yeah.
really stands that they are trying to make good movies through this moniker, and not
Mm-hmm.
be like it's Disney's Predator, like because it's always like
Yeah.
Disney's Buzz Lightyear, or like whatever
Yeah.
Disney's
It's a
Lightyear or
musical.
whatever. It was like this is a 20th century production. This yeah, Disney owns us, but we're still trying to make good quality films that like people want
Yeah.
to see. And
The
honestly, like
Yautja
it,
from infinity and beyond.
yeah.
Anyway. Not
Listen,
yet.
if the Predator wants to show up in a Pixar movie, I'll be there for it. Uh,
Chris Evans, Buzz Lightyear fights.
with the Predators
No.
and aliens, he can. They're in the same universe. Who's to
Yeah.
say not?
Yeah.
There's a fight scene between, sorry, brother's name, Tabi,
Tabe, I believe.
Tabe. Um, there's a scene where he fights the Predator, and his sister's kind of helping, but kind of like standoffish.
Mm-hmm.
She does try to shoot him, but the gun doesn't go off because it's new technology. She doesn't really understand it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that is such a badass fight. And then I
Yeah.
love the scene when he disappears and he says the word in Comanche, which when it's translated, and if you watch the dub version, it means cheater.
Uh-huh.
And so when he
Okay. Right.
disappears, and I audibly, everyone went, "What the fuck?" And they basically said like cheater. That was their response to it, and I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
great. But do you feel like the Predator cheated when he cloaked to get out of that situation because he knew he was being bested?
There were a few times throughout the whole movie, and anytime we saw the Predator, that I felt like he was a little bit OP, and it was everything was just fodder to him. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
Well, it's French guys.
on the flips, yeah, and on the flip side of that, like I think they really built Naru up very well in
Yeah.
terms of her warrior prowess. And when she was fighting, she was putting it down. When Tabe was fighting, he was putting it down. When the earlier warriors were fighting as well, even though they got massacred, they were putting it down. I love, I have in my upbringing a pretty significant Native American kind of influence. My mother has like tribal ties. She's actually out at Sundance in South Dakota right now, which is like a really beautiful ceremony, and it's a great music. I should have been there, but I guess I chose Prey instead of the actual Sundance, so I had my own Sundance here at home. But anyway, I digress. It was great, the hoops and the yells and stuff when they were either setting themselves ready to battle. When Naru finally defeated the Predator, when she does it, she has her little scream. I was like, this is just, for somebody who's had that kind of connection from my upbringing, it was just such a wonderful thing to see native warriors and their own underdog story fighting essentially another native warrior from off planet.
Real quick, I did love the buffalo
Yeah.
scene because I was like,
Oh,
watching the movie, I
beautiful.
was like, did the Predator do this? This doesn't like it's another one of
Yeah.
those moments where I was like, this doesn't make sense for a Predator to do this unless he's
Right.
just like, like my theory was when I saw that scene and when the ship like flies off and he like comes up and he's cloaked,
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
like, did they just drop him off because they don't know what the fuck to do with this feral predator? They're like, fuck it, just send him to
Right.
Earth. We want no responsibility for this guy because
I
he's a
wonder,
fuck
right?
up.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like he's just like he doesn't adhere to the code. But I
Mm-hmm.
love that like when the fur trappers come up, Naru sees like the bear hide,
Yeah.
which I thought was a buffalo hide at first, which probably
Right.
might have made a little more sense and connected that a little better. But I
Mm-hmm.
got that like because if you know anything about the fur trade, it was just about making money and doing
Yeah.
whatever the
And
fuck you
they
needed to do.
killed
And
millions of buffalo in like
yeah,
such a short amount of time. One thing that really stuck out to me, I don't know why, is how long the Predator examined that like cigar, the French cigar.
yeah,
There was just like a cool shot, and then that whole sequence too, like there's parallels to the trappers and their skinning and the way that the Predator is skinning, and they're somewhat similar. And what else was I going to say about that? I think you hit it on the head actually about like the fur trade and everything back in the day. So I think there was a lot of setup to get you to really kind of want to see those French guys get get it,
yeah.
and
Well,
you like that whole thing. It was reminiscent of Michael Myers taking out the firemen in Halloween
yeah,
Kills. I think I'm like I want to kind of collect those type of scenes in my mind,
yeah,
but that shit was rocking. What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, going back to the one buffalo that's like super skin and just like the face is gone. It's just super
Mm-hmm.
brutal. Not that any of that, if it has its face, it's not as brutal. But I
Mm-hmm.
love how the predator like picks up the cigar and examines
Yeah.
it, and then goes and picks up the little flower that Naru like prays to the her
Sure.
ancestors
Right.
and
Right.
the great
Yeah.
buffalo
The
spirit. I forget
tribute.
what the yeah, well, in the Comanche dub, which is worth a watch, I think, because it
Okay.
translates a lot of what they're saying,
Okay. Hell
and
yeah.
she is like praying or giving homage to the great buffalo, the great
Yeah.
buffalo, and like how she feels that like they've died and it wasn't right, and
Yeah.
it's just a really good moment. And I think that the predator kind of realizes that he hasn't done this and that something doesn't have an honor system, which to me
Right.
the predator races, I think you can easily look at them and be like, oh, they're just monsters and they just kill. But
Sure.
I do think like throughout the
Yeah.
movies there are these nods of they don't kill pregnant women. They don't. If you're unarmed, you're not a threat to them. They're
Right.
not just going to kill a bunch of little like when the little kid in Predator Two is like shooting the gun and then the person's like want some candy. He's like want some candy. It's just like
Yeah.
those little
Yeah.
moments are. It's like it's all about finding the best hunt. It's not about just killing everything. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I like that the predator like there was that little moment of like he understood what she might have done or what that flower might have meant
Sure.
because maybe they
Yeah.
have similar,
And the
similar
cigar
things in their culture.
itself, right? Yeah, the cigar itself, it kind of speaks to, I don't know, some type of excess of these type of characters, or just even leaving it there in, littering basically in this
Yeah,
environment. It says so much about those
well,
trappers, and
yeah,
again, that film language. It's building you up to this, this massacre essentially. What were we
yeah,
gonna say?
yeah. Well, I like how they like you have like Naru and her people, and they're all like very like. I think they said something in like an interview at like San Diego Comic Con about how like
Hmm.
um, they like I don't know they like look clean, they look like they're healthy, they look like where they're supposed to be, they're thriving in this
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
And I think when you see the French people like the one
They're
guy who gets his
just
leg cut off, they're like the main dude who you hate is the cigar smoker, is fat and obese, just sweaty and
right.
just
Yeah.
ugly. And I think there's a little bit like
Good
you're just
point.
like I just want these guys don't seem like they're supposed to be here, I don't want them here.
Hmm.
And they
Again,
weren't. I mean, this
the
wasn't their
details.
land, you know.
Yeah.
They did like we
Yeah.
just came over here and said, "Yeah, this is ours. Book it."
Right. Yeah.
And I liked it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All of the native stuff was shown in a really great light, and
Agreed.
I just I don't know if I've seen a movie like this that's not about
I
like that
think
it
that's
hasn't
its
whitewashed.
biggest. Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think it's great that a Predator film has an all native cast and the
Hmm.
first one to do it. I'm glad that they chose this series to do this with.
Yeah. It just makes
What
so much sense.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
story to be told. I mean, would I watch this story if they were just trying to 2 hours of them just trying to survive during these harsh times? Yeah, that's
Hmm.
I'd watch a series about that. But
Sure. Yeah.
with the Predator in,
Without
and
the
I'm
predator,
even
or
more
whatever.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that they didn't opt in the normal version, the non-Comanche dub version. When they were speaking Comanche, they didn't really opt to translate those parts in a
Oh, I
way,
loved it.
and it was like and there's you can tell a lot about what's going on from just the inflection of characters, like those little kids. Like I felt like I learned a little Comanche Kima when she would say Naru Kima, like Naru is coming or whatever. Naru
Yeah.
Kima, Tabe Kima. And I just really liked there were a few moments where they would speak in Comanche and it wasn't subtitled or translated.
Hmm.
And it was just like, you get what's going on, you get the sense of the community and things like that are really subtle. I saw a thing on Instagram where this guy was like, it was really jarring for me to see like, all the Comanche people talking in English. And then when the French language guy came around, that was just really weird too. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I pointed out, and this is what I think here, I think I'm correct in thinking this, is that translator didn't speak English to her. He was saying, I know a lot of languages, and he was
Oh
speaking
yeah.
to her in Comanche. But for the
Yeah.
audience sake, we're hearing English. And that's something that's done in comic books a lot. They'll do these little translated things, and it'll be written in English so you can read it in English, but oftentimes a little asterisk, and down at the bottom of the page it's like translated from Comanche. So again, I just thought that was such a nice detail and accessible for people watching the film. And of course there is the dub, but that made a lot of sense to me. So I when that guy pointed out on Instagram, I was like, actually,
What's your
can't.
favorite
Yeah.
kill in Prey?
My
Human,
favorite kill and prey.
animal.
Oh man, you know which
Actually, do
one?
animal and then a human kill.
Okay, favorite animal kill I think is probably the wolf kill.
Yeah.
just because I think it said a lot, and it was really up until that point that was like the apex of what he had fought or discovered on the
Yeah.
planet, and so you could tell he was really fairly satisfied with that kill. And just how
Made it
quickly
a
he like
trophy.
sliced the fur, or and it had that samurai moment when the guts dropped and then it fucking fell. Like
Yeah.
Dan Trachtenberg is a good filmmaker. Let's just say
Yeah.
that right now.
I
He's
know.
got good sensibilities about what's going on, and I love just the slash and then the spine is out. Very cool animal. In terms of human kill, we'll say the French trapper kills. I think the shield was really good.
Oh yeah,
The
it's
when
such a
he
good
cut the
one.
guy's head off, boom, and it's
Yeah.
just like it was every aspect of that was so satisfying, and he was just rocking those dudes. And the another one I think is that was I thought was really kind of fun and clever was the bullet ricochet back and killing
Oh
the
yeah,
guy.
I love it.
It just again there was just like it wasn't just like Predator Massacre for Predator Massacre's sake. There was a lot of style put into each and every kill, and honestly, that's why I watched it like 3 times. I need another watch because I felt like it all happened so quick, and there's just a ton of details I probably have missed. How about
Yeah.
yourself?
I'd probably say the for animals, the bear kill. I just, dude,
Yeah,
I like I said, I've just always wanted to see like the whole movie could have just been him coming to Earth and no people there, just him fighting animals through the
right.
entire movie, and I would have been like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Not saying anything, just like an hour and 40 minutes of him just taking on different wildlife. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to see him fight a shark. I mean, that's next, right? That's got to be the next movie.
I know.
My favorite
So
human kill
yeah,
was
go ahead.
probably the I don't know. I mean, the head
It's
chop
hard.
was pretty sick. I really
Mm-hmm.
like the one kill where he first takes on the when you get the first reveal when he's taking on the natives, and he like
Yeah.
really quickly takes out the guy's legs and then stabs him
Yeah.
into that tree trunk that he's behind. I thought that scene was
Yeah.
just like really
That was
cool, and I
cool.
love when he walks up and like does the cool like the moment when he does it and he swings the sword in his hand. It reminded me of Gladiator, of like Russell Crowe going into like one of
Sure.
the fights. I don't even know if that's a scene, but I just
Yeah.
got a very like Gladiator like. Well, here we
Cool.
go. Like how good is this going to be? But I wanted to say real quick. I also
Yeah.
loved how you brought up that. I just want to talk about the native fighting. I love how they weren't cowards about it. They like took it on as best they
Yeah.
could. I like how no one really. I mean, Naru ran, but I think that's just because like she wasn't
She
prepared.
knew she was
Yeah,
outgunned at that point. I
um,
think that's what was
yeah,
cool about her characters. They really showed how tactical she was, and she even like she tried her best to warn everybody about this. We need to be better prepared, and she,
she was like skin
you
snakes,
know, and
danger.
it just helped that the relationship with her brother and that he was such a strong warrior. Like he probably has taught her a lot, and then their father, who they lost, probably taught them a lot, and
Mhm.
she just she earned it. It felt like she earned it. It didn't feel like they were just throwing like make believe that like a little girl could kill this monster or whatever. Like she really put in the work. I thought a couple far-fetched moments, like maybe I'm not too sure about this herb that cools the blood. I think it's
Yeah,
great. I think it works. It's a little comic booky, I'll say. Like I cannot confirm. Maybe somebody who is a holistic healer or a shaman of sorts may be able to correct that for us or confirm that for us. But and then also like the tether on the axe. Again, I love it. I feel like that would be extremely hard. I feel like I'd get an axe to the forehead if I tried that
well,
at
that's
all.
because you're not Naru. Okay.
Yeah, but she exactly like she was so effective with her methods and things like that, and how she was thinking about things, and that she used the mud pit that almost killed her to and it didn't even not necessarily even to kill. I mean, she did use it to kill the predator, but it wouldn't have been the same type of death had she died in that pit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And her environment, her knowledge of the environment, was just her biggest strength, I think. So,
Yeah.
so what do you think of that final fight altogether? And did it work for you? Was it convincing enough that she could take out that predator? I mean, I think I kind of just touched on it, but how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at any point in that movie did I think Naru wasn't capable of like taking on a predator. I mean,
Yeah,
I love the cooling of the blood plant thing. I don't know if it's real or not. I think it's a very
right.
comic book moment. I think it's a very fun thing to do in a movie.
Sure.
And I also think the axe thing is a very cool, fun thing to do. I like that they make fun of her. It's like you have to have a leash on your weapon, blah blah blah. But they don't know. They've never seen her use this weapon.
Right.
Like they don't know why she has that. I think these things are awesome and fun and what you want in like a comic book or an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's because I think we get too much as an audience of like how realistic is it? Well, first of all, it's an
Totally.
alien race coming
Totally.
down to hunt us. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that could be a real thing, but in this world, it like we're just gonna. I like that Trachtenberg is like me, and he's like a kid. Like at San Diego Comic Con, he
Yeah.
talked about how he used to go to those all the time and collect
Yeah.
stuff. This guy
He's like
reads
our
comic
age.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he just wanted. He was like, "What would be a cool weapon for a native to use that we've never seen before?" Oh, dude, tomahawk on a string, sick. I love that mentality and that thought process
Yeah,
because I feel like
totally.
if me and you sat down or like with our super house
Yeah.
boys, we would also think of something just as fun and far
We're
fetched.
gonna
That
do the
would it work?
2030
Probably not.
reboot, guys.
Yeah.
Look out for
Well, I
us
just
when we.
I love that I love that stuff's in there because like you have this like super tech of this predator versus like it gave her an
Mhm.
upper hand in some situations. I loved it. I think it was great. I think it's
Right.
great to take reality and go, what if we did that? I feel like
Yeah.
if we always stay here and try to make like every comic book movie super serious and you kind
Right.
of lose what makes comic books so much fun.
Not everything can be the Dark
Yeah.
Knight, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is like when you watch Predator, like the Predator could just straight up killed Arnold. It's just like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you want to see
Come
human
on,
triumph over that. Yeah.
kill me.
It's just like, should the Predator have taken off his gear? No.
Yeah.
But
I
look where he
loved the
did.
very subtle references to the OG films,
Oh,
I
dude,
guess.
I
With
love the
yeah.
scene where she pulls herself out of the mud pit and goes up against a tree trunk.
Come on,
Because
come
I
on.
thought,
Yeah.
well, because I thought that like the Predator was gonna like walk by her, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool homage
Yeah.
to Predator. That's cool because I've not seen anyone really do that. I liked her crawling out after she goes through the river. It's
Hmm.
very reminiscent of like Arnold crawling up on the bank. Um, I love getting into the final battle. I don't. Okay, I'm gonna go back to your question. I like the final battle scene. The only thing that kind of bugged me was the redirect arrow scene. If you watch the movie several times, you see her take notice of these red dots,
Hmm.
which I think is super cool because it's like, if you have someone with a three red dot tattoo, you're like, Predator tattoo? Is that Predator
Hey.
reference? Like, they're like, oh yeah. So I like get it, and I loved how in the one shot the one dot moved to shoot the arrows. I was like,
I
oh, it's so
liked that
cool.
too. I liked
Yeah.
that they kind of evolved that
But
concept a little bit or devolved it maybe.
she like watches that happen, and then the other scene where the guy pulls her down into the tall grass, and it's like we've got him basically. And if you watch the
Yeah.
Comanche dub, I recommend watching the Comanche dub real quick, just because if you're kind of
Fair
lost
enough.
within like what they're saying.
Hmm.
I also agree with Stefan that I think it's very readable to know human emotions because we all have
Hmm.
similar ones, and it's easy to
Yeah.
read people's eyes and reactions and blah blah blah. Even with a language barrier, I mean, if you go to Europe or something, it's not like if you say bathroom and then make the gesture that you got to pee, you're not going to be in France and be like, I don't know what the fuck you're
Right.
saying. You're
And
American.
that's
What the
film
fuck? What do you
language.
need? Yeah. But I loved how she watched it, so she knew how that system worked, and I thought it was a cool move. I kind of agreed with you that I thought like he should know, but in
Hmm.
my thought process is that she's cut off his arm at this point. She's ripped off one of his mandibles. Like this dude's
Yeah.
just, and she's tried to drown him in a mud pit. Like I would
Yeah.
be pissed too, and I think he just wanted to kill her. And I think there
Yeah.
are other moments in that, like when he punches the bear instead of like
Yeah.
really fighting it. I think this predator is just like has anger issues. I think there's
That's
just some
funny.
issues where he's just like, fuck
Right.
this, boom,
Right.
It's like, I'm done with this. Like, even with the wolf, I feel like there could have been a little
Okay.
longer fight if he wanted to test himself a little more,
Yeah.
but he got bit and he was pissed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to really say that because he doesn't like growl or get really mad, but I just feel like the amount of violence that he's enforcing on these things after he gets hurt
Hmm.
um, justifies that he's just kind of pissed off. And
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a cool element to Dan Trachtenberg's Predator, that there's that emotion of just being like, fuck you. Like, there's a moment when they're fighting the fur traders too, like
Yeah.
that one guy who like he pulls out the knife and the Predator has him and he chops off his head and then the Predator does a little head tilt. It's just like, fuck
Yeah.
you. Try to come at me with
Yeah.
a knife. I like there's
Totally. I
some like
loved
attitude to
those
him and he's not
moments.
like
Absolutely.
he's not completely alien. Like, and I feel
Yeah.
like
He's
the
got
moment when he sees that like
personality.
he's fucked up is also a really cool like she bested me kind of.
Right.
She is the better warrior. But I mean, that was the only thing I thought was kind of weak. I wanted to see more, but I thought the fight up until then was just so brutal and so like she was just
So
scraping
good.
by and he was
His
just scraping
movement
by, like, yeah,
through the
like
trees and
it,
everything. Yeah.
and they were just both so mad at each other that like
Yeah.
I like she like he's killed her tribesmen even if they did have differences, and he's lost his armor, his maybe even his honor at that point. Like he's like, I'm gonna get killed by this thing that I didn't think could kill me. But I
Sure.
love that little dialogue she has with the French fur trapper, the bad one, right before,
Yeah.
about how like no one expects it to
Oh,
be
I
me. And
love
she
it. I
steps to
love
the
that
side as
whole
he walks by.
this is
It's just
it
like chills, dude. I
shit.
was like, oh, she's gonna kill him. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Totally.
thought the final scene worked really well. I liked all the CG, like when he jams his claws into that like fucking tree just as hard as he can. I love the brutality of this
Hmm.
predator, but I love the human triumph. That's what makes these stories great.
I I like tend to really start feeling sorry for the predators by the end of the movie. They
Yeah.
get fucked up, man. And then like once he lost that arm, I was like, oh dang, like couldn't you guys just shake hands and
Yeah.
call it a
No.
truce? No. This is
And
like the bold statement maybe, but like second best Predator movie ever,
whew, I mean, I go back.
possibly.
I mean, I love me
Predator
some
2 is
Predator too.
dope. Predator
Yeah.
2 is dope. But this one, you got a solid trilogy right here. Almost
Yeah.
retroactively in a way. And but I was gonna ask you, like, okay, so where do you think it's headed? Do you think we're gonna get another in this series? Do you think they're gonna jump time a little bit, or what would you like to see?
Um, so when I first saw the trailer, the full trailer, and the French fur trappers show up, and I knew the time period. So I knew as soon as the fur trappers showed up that that if they didn't tie it into Predator 2 would be a missed opportunity. And Dan,
Sure,
thank you so much.
dude,
Predator 2 doesn't get
cool,
enough love.
yeah,
I love the OG Predator, but my second favorite Predator design is probably what they call the City Hunter, which is the Predator 2
hmm,
Yautja. I love it. I think it looks cool. I think it just the bright colors and the oranges just pop. But I love that
yeah,
it's that gun. And when she hands the
yeah,
gun to the chief, and then you see the little in credits animation where more predator ships are coming to Earth,
right,
but the natives are still in the drawing.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what Dan Trachtenberg's plan is, but somehow that gun has to get into a predator's hands.
right.
And I
Which
don't know if
just
there's going to be a truce with the native people, which I think would be cool.
that could be cool.
As I don't know if I
Cause
need to
in
see Naru fight another one, but
mhm,
sorry, real quick, what I'd like to see,
okay,
what I would like to see is Dan go, we're going to do a second movie on Earth. We're going to tie this in and get the gun into a predator's hands, and then Naru is going to go with the predators for a third film to
right,
fight
because
on a distant planet.
there's like a comic run or Alien versus
Yeah,
Predator comic
Alien
run or
versus
something where
Predator.
there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
female and a predator kind of thing going on. Sure.
I would like to see something like that. I don't know how far fetched or how much money like Hulu and 20th Century
Yeah.
and Disney are willing to put into this, but I would love the opening of Prey 2 to be them come down, talk to them, have some kind of talk, and then Naru go with them to a distant planet to hunt, and then
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe
them
like
drop her back off.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't feel like I need to see Naru get lost in space or something.
Right.
Um, but
Could
maybe
be kind of
some other
interesting to
kind.
see a character from that time period in
Oh my
some
god,
alien scenario, and
dude!
it would because that's something I don't think I've ever seen. It's usually someone from our time or more
Yeah,
future state being like shipped off, but that could be cool because then yeah, later they drop her off and she has such a knowledge of like the galaxy in a way, I guess, and this alien culture, but it's
yeah.
still being somewhere around like 1720 or some shit like that. It would be very interesting.
I would love to see those other predator ships look slightly different from the one that dropped off the feral predator, and maybe there's warring races,
Hmm.
and they haven't been able to stop this feral predator race, but she has somehow killed one. So then they have to
Okay.
take her to the predator homeworld or another planet that they're trying to something, and they need her help to best these. And maybe those other predators are more like the OG predator and look really similar. So the elder predator and Predator 2 that hands the gun to Harrington, Danny Glover's character, is
Hmm.
the OG predator costume. They just downed it up and made it look older.
Okay, I didn't
So
know that.
I think that would be really cool if we like get to see that race and her work together. Maybe she ends up dying
Right.
and he takes the gun as like an homage to her, and then they don't ever come back to Earth again until the events of
Hmm.
Predator 2, this certain ship of, I don't know. I
Right.
think that would be kind of cool to see Warren, because we've already kind of got that in Predators with like the Berserk Predator. in the other one. So there is some kind of conflict between the two. But maybe I would like to see like the feral predators who go and hunt on their own and wherever they want, and then maybe a smarter class, or I don't know, more refined
Cool.
class
Yeah,
of
that would be
predators
cool.
or something. I want to know what your thoughts were for a follow up film.
Oh,
Maybe you
I
didn't have
think
anything, but
I haven't
um,
really thought of anything too much. I thought that was a really nice touch because as filmmakers, you probably don't know what you're going to be able to do next, depending on how it's received. I like that they just were like got their motion graphics guy and they're like throw in a few more ships right there. Let's just see what happens. So for me, that was such a good tease. I really want to see more of Naru and her growing as a warrior and stuff. I think like what Maddie was kind of breaking down there. There's a lot of opportunity for a lot of different things, and I think since Dan Trachtenberg and the cast and crew really knocked it out of the park here, I think it's gonna be. I think it's in good hands. I think this franchise at this point, based on this film, is in really good hands. So I just want to see more, and I'm anticipating more of the same quality. And I think this one will do really well. So the next one will have a little bit bigger budget. Especially, I know Maddie's happy, this being his franchise and all. We're excited, very excited.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you couldn't tell at this point, we love Prey. 9 out of 10 from both of us. Hopefully, yeah, there's a lot more coming. Maybe not a lot more, but a little bit more would be really good. I think I'm really taken by Dan Trachtenberg's style, the sensibilities that went into the writing and everything. For me, everything worked. I didn't find anything to be really cheesy or off-putting or too jarring that would take me out of the film too much. I think he's a really strong presence. And I hope he gets the proper nurturing for his career, and I hope he gets some good opportunities to continue on with the style, whether it's more Predator or whatever the next project he might be doing. I think he's really knocked it out of the park here, really delivered is a good way to put it. Thank you for joining us for the inaugural episode of Seent, Movies and Television with Maddie and Stefan. That's it for me, unless you got anything else to add. I think we're ready to fly out of here in our Yup Jaw craft. We'll be back real soon with another thing. I don't know what it is just yet, but we're going to be back with more reviews, and this is our new show. So welcome to it. And like I said, I don't have a catchphrase yet to send you all off, so I'm just going to go ahead and peace out.
Bye-bye.